Hey you guys, welcome back to Kimball's Corner. I know it's been a while and Rocky and I have been trying to get things sorted, but he is so swamped and we've had a lot of things coming up over the weekends that we couldn't film lives, but we're working on it, I promise. So I thought I would just put together, a little video. I don't know if it's gonna be good, but it's something. I'm just trying to give you something. Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoy. I'm gonna be using my ballpoint pen, this little brown notebook, and some of Jane Davenport's Joyful Gessos. And I'll probably bring in some white paint pens from Sharpie or some of the musical markers by Jane Davenport. I don't know. I think I'm just gonna do something with flowers and a face and something. It'll be impressionistic because y'all know I can't draw flowers. So let's get to it. Hey everyone, okay, so yeah, we're just doing a little voiceover action because I was just too in the zone to be talking while I was creating. Anyway, I'm clipping down the pages because they're pretty curly because this is definitely not watercolor paper. So it was pretty curly from some previous paintings that I've been doing in this journal. I find it really fun sketching with a ballpoint pen. I mean, you see all your mistakes, whatever, it's fine. You're gonna paint over them anyway, but it is fun to build off of them. And at this point, I really have no idea what I'm doing. I know I want to draw a profile, and I know that I want flowers involved somehow, and y'all know I'm terrible at drawing flowers, but I give it my best. Okay, not really, but I give it a good try, we'll say. I think later on I lose her nose, but right here I'm giving it a little point, a little more definition, but I'm pretty sure that when I paint it, it gets lost, but we know it's a nose, it's fine, whatever. I'm not gonna beat myself up about it. Anyway, I like to add a little bit of shading with the pen just because it helps out when I start painting. And I'm keeping the flowers incredibly loose because I don't have the patience to draw really beautiful flowers. I wish I did, but I don't. Again, adding just a little bit of shading here and there to mostly remind myself when I'm painting, where I want the darks and lights to be, but also the lines do show through, which I like, because I like seeing the sketch and stuff coming through in a painting. Creating a little side flower because obviously she needs to have a flower sideways. I don't know, it looks good. We're going with it. Adding some very intricate leaves up there. There's some swoopy hair coming through. Not really sure where I was going with it, but we're working with it. Again, you can always paint over and make it completely different later on, but I'm pretty sure I stick to it pretty good. And then I'm creating an outline, so later on I'm going to paint a white border around her. So right now I'm kind of just drawing a darker border for the background, which I don't want to put much thought into. So we're just gonna make it nice and dark and sketchy. And then I'm gonna pull out, this is a little, I don't remember what they're called, but it's a Jane Davenport thing, and that's a milky white Joyful Gesso. It's not opaque. Oh, it's called a Trust the Mess sheet. That brown thing is called Trust the Mess sheet. So it's just protecting the rest of my journal. Anyway, the milky white, I'm using just a little bit, and then I'm going to mix it with water because I'm cheap and I like to make my products go further. And also, it's just, I want to be able to see the line work. And I want the brown of the paper to come through because it'll tone down everything until I start piling it on thicker and thicker. And the thicker the paint goes on, the more vibrant it's going to get. But you can see the brown Trust the Mess sheet helps with the overpainting and all that jazz. So yeah, just laying it on pretty thin. You can go over it as many times as you want. You really don't need to do a ton. There's no technique to it, really. I just slathered it on. And there's a lot of drawing using this technique, by the way, because you do a lot of thin layers. So clipping the pages back down because they curl up. This is definitely not watercolor paper, but we're pretending that it's okay to paint on. It's just craft paper, I'm pretty sure. I don't know. It seems fancy because it was £6, but whatever. more drying. I'm making sure it's really dry just so I can go over the top. Those are the colors that I like want to work with. I do love the pinks and blues and purples and yellows. And I'm going to go with like purpley pink flowers. And I just give the paints an overall spritz, because if I don't use them right away, they kind of get that skin on top. You know what I'm talking about, that little acrylic skin. It's kind of nasty. So I didn't want that, so I just gave little spritz over everything. And then, yeah, I just lay it down really loose. It's watery. Sometimes, like, if like you can see on the lips and nose, it's a little too watery. I would just dry my brush off and then reapply. Hope you guys like the multiple angles. That's a new thing. It's a very old phone, so it looks a little different, but it's fine. We're working with it. It's a new thing. Adding some purple in the center, just where I had those hash lines, just as a reminder to myself to create texture and also create shading. And then purple on this one. Well, this flower's a little more purple all around, but I wanted to do purple on the underside of that petal, the side petal, just because it's in shadow. And it's just all very watery. You can tell I dried it just a little bit. And I didn't like that blue. It was a little too gray looking on the brown. So popping out this like teal blue, much nicer. Plus it helps like with the pink pop. It's nice. We like that. So again, just slopping down like a first layer basically. It's like blocking in your colors. It's not, we're not getting into anything crazy just yet. Well, okay. If you watch me paint, you know I never take anything too seriously. Nothing gets too crazy. It's all pretty simple. Going in with the lighter peachy colors for her lips and whatnot, which look very white right now, but I'm pretty sure that, you know, when it dries, it gets a little more peachy colored. Mixing in a little purple. Oh, I moved my palette so you guys could actually see me mixing, but it's kind of dangerous. I could be spilling paint everywhere. But I mixed a little bit of the purple with some skin tone just for some shading, but I changed it like 10 times throughout this whole thing, so it's not going to stay there. It's just, you know, when we start layering it up, you'll see that like the layers underneath kind of shine through just a little bit. Nothing too dramatic. Just laying it on a little bit thicker because like the ballpoint pen lines are just a little, showing up a little too much. Also, I'm just adding different colors to her skin. It's like pinks, purples, peaches, this really light peach color. Just adding variation and interest. I mean, I'm not going for perfection. If I was, well, I missed the mark. Also, I'd be using a reference if I was trying to make it look, you know, more realistic than this. Slapping down the colors. Trying to, oh, you can also like do a really light glaze of one color over the whole skin, just kind of tie it all in, but I don't think I end up doing that. I think I do it with colored pencils later. But adding a little pink to the nose, also with that pink flower there, it's gonna have some light bouncing off and casting pink onto her. I created like a peachy colored lipstick, which I'm pretty sure I add some neon pink into it, because why wouldn't I? Oh, there it is. Who doesn't love a bright pink lip? She suddenly looks very 80s to me, which I'm totally fine with. Going in with yet another layer, just adding the purples. And then I start doing speed painting because it's like I'm doing the same thing over and over and over again, so you guys don't need to see it like in real time. Of course, if I do this on a live, then, you know, you'll get to see it all in real time. And also using more purple for that other flower, but also just because it's in the shading, and getting some of the water and color out of the brush, because if it's too watery, then it doesn't dry right, it looks weird. Adding a little pink to the edge, help give it a little definition, little something. Flower in the background, I couldn't quite decide what colors to do, but I laid down those colors pretty thick, so I just rinsed my brush off and then went back in and just kind of smeared it around a bit, you know, like a professional would. Oh, just smearing the color around, giving it just the little slightest bit of definition. Adding a little bit more color here and there, a little more shadow. I feel like half of this video that I edited out was just drawing time. It doesn't take long, but you have to do it often. But I do love it because like the gesso isn't water soluble, so it like doesn't reactivate, which is very nice. It's kind of, I'm assuming it's the same spiel with acrylic inks, which I don't really use too often. Anyway, mixing up my own green because the gesso green is a little too bright. It's even brighter than that first green I put down. Anyway, so I'm doing like a darker background green for the leaves, and then I'll just add some lighter colors on later as we go, just to give a little more depth and interest. This way of painting is super forgiving, by the way, because if you don't like something, you can just wipe it off before it dries. I'm too lazy for that, so it just looks like I like everything, but I did make many mistakes throughout this whole thing, and it's fine. In the end, it all turned out. Also, I'm not great with composition. I really should like sketch these out and do thumbnails. Because if I did that, then I would, you know, it would look a little bit prettier, a little more thought out, but that's okay. It's okay. It's just in a sketchbook. Going in with a lighter green, I think the background might be just a touch wet, maybe not, I don't know. But yeah, just going with a lighter green, and it's very thin, so it just adds a touch of brightness, but then it'll kind of dry and sink in just a little bit. And then adding the yellow, yellow is such a great color. It adds so much energy to a piece, so much warmth. I am obsessed, love it. Also, yellow and purple are complementary, so they look more vibrant next to each other, which creates a lot of energy in an image. And then I was like, let's just do yellow everywhere. Yellow spots, yellow centers, yellow leaves, yellow everything. You just wait, there's more yellow to come. When I was pouring out the colors, I did 2 blobs of yellow, because I did 1 yellow with blue to make a green, and then I kept a clean yellow for doing yellow on the painting, and I ended up with too much, so I do a lot of yellow later on. Some simple shapes for the hair. This is a really easy thing to do, because as it dries, like when it dries, you can go back through and just add some streaks to it, let it dry, add some more streaks, and it starts, you know, looking more like hair with highlights. It's just an easy way to do it. Here I'm going back through and just adding streaks. But I do go through later on with colored pencils, because y'all know I'm a sucker for colored pencils over especially these gessos, because they're super matte, so like colored pencil lays down on them really, really nicely. But I always like to have a good base of paint to work on top of. Speeding it up a bit, because we're just doing the same thing over and over again. And I did add some green in, I don't know, it's pretty, I liked it. Going back up top, I'm adding a little bit different colors. I'm adding like a bluer green, just to kind of break up the leaves a little bit, because they were all kind of filling one color. Makes it a little more interesting. Maybe it looks like I know what I'm doing. Doesn't matter. As long as you're having fun creating, that's all that matters. Coming back in with the purple, doing some more depth. Trying to create some more depth with the purple. I keep adding a little bit of that blue to it just to make it a little bit darker every time. And then as the paint starts to run out on my brush, I start to create shading around the edges. I get a little more free with it, because it's not going to show up too much. But when it goes on a little thicker and a little darker, I try to put that in places that I'm really wanting to look dark and shadowy. And again, I can always rinse my brush out and then just use clean water and kind of smear those colors around. Adding a little pink just to zhuzh it a little bit, kind of blends in with that purple. The purple was a little too harsh, like the edge of it. Creating some darker colors. It's also nice using like same colors from other parts of your image to create new colors. Like I took some of the blue from the flower behind her and mixed it with the pink to make the purple. So it kind of ties into the same blue family as that flower back there. And now I'm putting on like thick, just pure yellow paint to really help it like stand out and pop and create a little more dimension on these, you know, super made up flowers. I'm sure there's a flower out there that looks like these. And then why not add a little yellow on her lips? And then let's just put yellow everywhere. But it's really nice how much it completely changes the picture. Like it was, I mean, you know, the background's dull anyway, but then adding this bright yellow just like adds so much more interest to this. And I'm not painting all the way up to her, like her skin and stuff, because I am going to go back in with the white paint pen. Adding some yellow for highlights and line work and whatever. I just think it's more interesting. Really, that's the theme of my art. If I think it looks more interesting or adds energy or excitement, I go for it. Whether it be bright colors or shaky line work or lots of line work, I like to add that little extra bit of energy. Trying to create more of a shadow underneath the flowers and on her neck. I think I do end up coming in later with some colored pencils, like purples and stuff to darken it up. I'm also spreading the color around very thinly just to kind of give it an overall tone to the skin. Yeah, her nose, I didn't quite do it right, but that's fine, don't look at it. Oh god, and then I added these pink dots, and I was gonna do like having her say a quote or something through them, and then I looked at it, I was like, maybe let's do dots everywhere, and then I thought, what the hell am I doing, and goodbye. Decided I did not like the dots. So we fixed that. Coming in with I think that's the Storytime paint pen. I always call them the musical markers, but I think that is the Storytime paint pen. And it's very nice for creating a nice thick white opaque line around an image. Of course I always end up sticking my hand in it, so I'm like trying to be super cautious about that. I'm sure I'm not the only one. And then it was funny because once I did it by her teeth, I was like, oh, her teeth look so not white anymore. I'm sure we'll fix that later. And then when I was painting the hair, I went completely over where I was going to do the white line. So right here, I'm like, do I go into it? What do I do? I'm like, yep, we're cutting into it. And it's fine. I'll go back over later with colored pencils and just do a couple lines of hair. So, you know, it'll look like it was meant to be, kind of. And right now the hair looks super blocky, but when you add like just the free-flowing lines of a colored pencil, it looks really nice. Oh, and I was testing that purple just to see if it would look good with this flower. And I thought it did, so in we went. And I was gonna do like shading, like gradations and stuff, and I thought, no, let's do like hash marks and stuff. That's a little more fun. A little more interesting, a little more energy, why not? There I am adding some outlines and wobbly lines. Gives it a more organic feel if you ask me, but you didn't. But if you did, I would say it feels more organic. Doing a little pink for some highlights, and then I'll come in later with white to get like a nice bright highlight, but I still keep it pretty simple. There it is. Ah, pretty. It's so funny how different the cameras look. Like this one looks so much more faded than the other one. Also could be the angle of the lighting, I don't know. Just creating a nice outline for the other flower, helping it stand out a little bit. A little bit of highlight to help it give it some dimension. And then I had to go through it. That first blue laying on the desk didn't quite look right, so I came in with this one. And then I didn't really know how to do like the dark part of the flower, so I just shaded it all in lines, but it kind of looks weird. I'm not in love with that choice, but yeah, whatever, it is what it is. A nice light blue for some light highlights. Pretty sure I come in with white on this one as well. Also, it was really annoying because the paper kept popping up, and it was like, it kept like making little pencil marks. Oh well. The things we deal with as artists. And there I am just using yellow to outline everything again. Trying to bring her nose back, but it's kind of gone, whatever. But I do like this color for this particular skin tone. What color is it, you ask? I don't know. It's a reddish brown. And then I couldn't find my peach, so that color's called Nectar. And I was like, where is my peach? I know I have one, I use it later. Anyway, bringing in some purple because I like the purple flowers, and I thought let's carry the color throughout. It makes the whole piece feel a little more cohesive. And I do love that the Prismacolors match these Gessos pretty well. Found my peach, so I'm just coming in, and I put the peach over the purple, so it tones down the purple and makes it a little more of a skin shadow tone. I don't know. At least it does in my eyes. It might just look, purple to you, and that's fine. But I do a lot of that. Like, I'll come in with the color and add it, and then I'll pull it back using like the flash tone or like lip color or whatever it is that I'm using. I'll pull it back. Oh yeah, there I am going over the whole thing. It's subtle, but it kind of ties the whole thing in. Ah, she got teeth whitening. Little highlight on the chin. Oh my gosh, it's so easy to go overboard with the highlights. Like right there, that line is a little too light. I shouldn't have done that, but again, we can tone it down with a peach pencil. I think I go over all of it because it also helps like tone down the texture that the pencil leaves on the page. Ah, she can breathe. Anybody else love adding highlights? I think it's one of my favorite things to do. And that's the part I was talking about where I just go over with a pencil and yeah, it's supposed to be that way. That is how I meant for it to look. And then I want to bring in like a little bit of a darker green just because like there's some green and blue in the hair. I want to use both. Oh my god, chartreuse is such a great color, like especially when used with blue. So pretty. It almost looks like a neon yellow or a green, but it's chartreuse. Still trying to push that flower in the background back a little bit further using a darker color. Now I'm just amping up the color on her lips, and I'm pretty sure I use it in the flower too, because that's a really pretty pink color, I gotta say. So yeah, I use it everywhere. It totally brightens up the image. I'm like, do I do it? Sure, why not? I don't know why I didn't like it earlier with the pink paint, but here I am doing it with pencil. I wonder what the obsession is with dots. I do it on a lot of my pictures. It's just fun. And then I'm introducing somewhat of a new color because I haven't used aqua in the image, so I'm kind of adding a little bit of it everywhere. So you kind of see it all over the place, but it's not like a block of color on the page. It's just little bits here and there, which I think is more interesting. It may not be your jam. That's okay. Just darkening up the lip lines a bit. And then doing some fine paint pen work. More dots, because why wouldn't I? And it's like, you know, when the paint pen comes out, we're getting close to the end. So yeah, just adding a little more organic line work to make it a little more energetic and exciting. In my eyes, anyway. And yeah, I think we're pretty much coming to the end. I mean, look at me going crazy with that paint pen. It's the most fun. Oh look, more teeth bleaching. I also like to bring the white line into the image a little bit. Alright, you guys, I think that is it. We are done. We had to obviously bring in the colored pencils at the very end. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and yeah, we'll see you next time. Bye!